Hello. Oh, good afternoon. Hey, one more time. Good afternoon. Roll Tide. Okay. You know what? Since Dion's here, I'll say War Eagle this one time. Yeah. Go Blazers. Go Blazers, because we're in Birmingham, right? Awesome. Thank you all for coming to Tech Tuesday. We have a really good one for you today. We're going to have Donnie and Kevin speaking. But first off, thank you to Regions Bank, Mary Wallace in the back, for being a great sponsor. Also, shout out Jesse and Digital Motion in the back. They do an amazing job. And also, thank you to Birmingham Now. Could you raise your hand if you're a Tech Birmingham member? Wow, I'm almost at a full room. Okay, now raise your hand if you're a board member. Awesome. Let's give everyone a round of applause, right? So, first program post Lost Tech, arguably the biggest one ever, right? 1,600 registrants, 16 activations, all across the city. Pitch competition. Thankful to Regions Bank for being an amazing sponsor for that. We had a $100,000 grand prize. It was amazing. Raise your hand if you're at Sloss Tech. Wow. Okay, let's do it. Okay. All right. Awesome. So happy to have everyone here. Anna will introduce us to our program, and let's get started.
Hey, everyone. We're super excited for the Tech Tuesday today. So Donnie, who is our moderator, actually took the lead on the Tech Birmingham side for this program. So we're super excited. When Jared and I and Dion were all caught up in Sloss Tech stuff, Donnie was able to carry the ship forward with motion, and you'll hear more about this, but we're super appreciative to our board for standing in our gaps. So Tech Tuesday as a whole, each month, each quarter, when we do this, we try to bring sort of a highlight to a different way that technology intersects with different sectors, tech and tech adjacent. So we're super excited for the conversation today, sort of around how today's changing technology impacts industrial operations and other similar industries. And Donnie is going to give us a full overview of what that looks like. So if you'll please help me in welcoming Donnie to the stage. Thanks for being here.
So I was telling Anna with me, one of my friends, and I was talking to her when I introduced her to Anna and Jared, and I was like, hey, Tech Birmingham has 3 employees, you just met 4 of them, because Anna and Jared carry so much water for all of us. So all of these events, Sloss Tech, an awful lot of what we get to experience together is because Anna and Jared do a whole lot of work. So if y'all don't mind, give them a hand as they're kind of All right, check 1, 2. Okay, you guys, you hear me all right? All right, so I guess someone was probably saying you should use the microphone, Donnie. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with some statistics. I can't see y'all with these on, so you'll have to be loud. Calisthenics and stretching is where we're gonna go, right? Not really, but reach down on your chair real quick and touch the armrest. What's it made out of? Metal, right? How do you think that metal got here? It wasn't software. A human being bent it, cut it, brought it here. So when we talk about metal, we talk about wood, we talk about stone, we're talking about something called durable goods. So that word is going to mean something today, and I'm going to keep bringing it up. Durable goods are these things that really you have to have a human being interacting with to get them into a useful state. We depend on them all the time. We probably spend, I'm going to ask a question here. Who spends more than 5 hours a day looking at a screen? 6 hours a day. Keep them up. 7 hours a day. 8 hours a day. More than 8 hours a day looking at a screen. Is that the natural state of human beings? Right? So we, over the past 20, 30 years, have begun to think of progress as software. Right? We think of technology, we think of innovation, we talk about these things, and we talk primarily about software. That's a pretty common thing. We talk about our startups, we talk about our apps, we talk about all these things. And all of us who are knowledge workers spend most of our time looking at a screen. There is an entire world out there that doesn't do that. And it's probably important for us to be aware of that world and connect with it, because in a lot of ways that world feels left behind by people who are moving on without helping them move forward. I will promise you this. If you ever go to FabTech, and I highly recommend it, you will see that at least in the metal shaping and cutting space, Some of the most innovative stuff you will ever see. Robots doing things you cannot believe. Welds, moving things. And it all leads to the chair you're sitting in today. It leads to this building, right? This is concrete and steel. And so the whole world around us is impacted by these durable goods. So now I'm going to give you some statistics. There are 40,700 manufacturing workers in the Birmingham metropolitan area. 40,700. That's according, it's of August 2025. That's the Alabama Department of Labor. 28,900 of those are in durable goods, 11,800 in non-durable. There are 55,000 businesses in Jefferson County. 55,000. It's a good bet that an awful lot of those are doing something with durable goods and non-durable goods, manufacturing and the like. So I'm going to talk about something. Birmingham has a manufacturing and durable goods background, but is second to none. Second to none. We also more recently have a technology background, which has been federally recognized. We are a federally recognized tech hub. So let me read this off to you. There are metropolitan areas, according to Claude, and I believe Claude, don't you guys? Claude's right. Claude can't be wrong. Metros that compete with Birmingham, Alabama on manufacturing expertise alone. Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Youngstown, Toledo. Those are pretty good names. None of them are tech hubs. Okay. Well, who are the federally recognized tech hubs? Austin, Raleigh-Durham, Nashville, Boise. Right? No overlap. What cities compete with Birmingham in both manufacturing and durable goods, knowledge, and tech knowledge? Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte. Those three cities are too big to let manufacturing and technology define them. So here's the thing I will tell you. I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it. Birmingham has 40,000 people who know how to make things, and we're a federally designated tech hub. Most metros only have one or the other. The bigger ones are not going to be defined by this. They have other industries they're going to define themselves by. We're small enough that the mix here matters. And if we focus on it, that is a key raw material for our future. So anyone who has the displeasure of having to have lunch with me a lot, Ben, I'm sorry, has to hear this over and over again. But I truly believe we have a unique mix of tech talent and blue collar talent in the state and in this city and in this metro. And it is our job over the next 5 years, if we want to define what this metro can look like, to combine those things and come up with solutions that work for everybody in that metro. And we can be truly different. And I think that's a big deal. And so today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking to Kevin. I'm not going to introduce Kevin. Kevin's going to introduce Kevin. But this is Motion Industries. Who in here has heard of Motion Industries prior to today? Great. Better than we expected, right, Shelley? So a lot of people have heard of Motion Industries. You probably have no idea the amount of things Motion Industries is mixed up in. I certainly did not. They're in a lot of places. And they have been fundamental to this combination, this mix I'm talking about, for a long time. They've been out on the front of doing this. My company, Stella Source, we've been doing it for 3 years. We act like we're a big deal, right? Oh, look at us, 3 years we've been doing this. These guys at Motion have been doing it for a long time. So Kevin, I don't know where Kevin is. Yep, Kevin, he's back there, he's tall. So y'all give Kevin a round of applause. Kevin's gonna tell us about Motion, and I'm gonna ask him a bunch of questions. And at the end of this session, we'll go probably, what do you think, 2.5 hours, 3 maybe?
You said 4.
4? Okay, yeah, we'll do a 4-hour set. So we'll go about 40 minutes, and then we'll do some Q&A. So if you have questions, write them down. Kevin and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I think neither of us prepared for this in any way, shape, or form. And it was just a conversation. But I thought it was important that we talk about what Motion's been doing. So Kevin, why don't you tell us, introduce yourself, tell us about, War Eagle, I know that much.
War Eagle.
And then tell us a little bit about Motion and what Motion's been doing in Birmingham for the last how many years?
80 plus years. Yeah. So thank you, Donnie, for having me here. I'm proud to be able to sit here and tell the story about who Motion is, and then a little bit about kind of our technology flair and what we're doing to support our customers internally and externally, and how we make heavy industry go forward. So Motion was born out of Birmingham, Alabama. Our founders were Birmingham natives. We're headquartered in Irondale, Alabama. I don't know how many people in here are in manufacturing. So maybe show of hands. Anybody in here from manufacturing? Not many.
Is that one?
Maybe one. Okay. Oh. So Donnie's point about, in the tactile world, there is still very much people doing hands-on work. right? They're processing things, moving things. They're cutting down trees. They're cutting that into lumber. They're debarking it. They're kiln drying those things. Those things are all happening right now all across this world, and they're not happening behind a computer screen. And where motion fits in is that we support customers who are focused on heavy industry, iron and steel, pulp and paper, concrete and aggregates. Those are things that we focus on. So the heaviest application of durable goods or manufacturing is motion's sweet spot. We sell products like bearings, gearboxes. We were focused on power transmission. So when you think about a conveyance line that's moving, post-industrial revolution, everything has to have some type of moving apparatus in a manufacturing facility. So we focus on all of that rotating equipment, and we take it very seriously. We have over 200,000 customers around North America. We have approximately 660 locations. Those are a variety of things where we service a branch. We have a servicing branch. We may have customer representatives that are on site at a facility. And then we also have what's called our specialty solutions group. So think less about core bearings and power transmission and motor work, and think about robotic armatures, think about automation or conveyance. We do some light manufacturing as well. And so this is part and parcel for who Motion is, and we're proud to be able to tell the story with you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're here. And full disclosure, Kevin and I met for the first time yesterday. So I'm going to make you tell me where you're from. And
Grew up, born and raised in Birmingham. So went to school here, left to go to Auburn for 4 years. Loved my time on the plains. I came back and worked for Drummond Company, a local multinational coal mining company, for 14 years. Adam Creel, who's their CIO, he was a mentor of mine. I spent a lot of time with him, and then was fortunate enough to get identified by Motion about 12 years ago, and came to Motion, led a software delivery team, did that for about 5 years, and then went into our business. And so had the opportunity to go and kind of flip my experience over to not just, using technology or building technology or implementing, but actually go in and see how that affects our internal customers, our external customers. And when I came back to technology in 23, I had a newfound appreciation for, you always have a burden for your customers, for sure. Everybody in tech kind of has that servant's heart. But if you have to use the systems that you've built, and you don't have your hands on the keyboard to make improvements anymore, you look at that with a different level of precision. Your empathy and appreciation for the product that you're creating and who has to be on the other end of that keyboard and screen is very, very different. So been with Motion, like I said, since 2014 and haven't looked back.
So it sounds like around 30 years you've been in the Birmingham market. I've been in for 31 years. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting in Birmingham is we've seen a lot of change in that time. We've seen a lot of change in technology, but if you've been in the Birmingham world for 30 years, you've seen a lot of change. The last 15 have been pretty amazing. The last 7 or 8 have been just wild. And there's change happening at these companies, right? And one of the things you said that really sits true with me is 3 years ago was my first exposure to the manufacturing world, right? So Stella Source is one of the O'Neill family companies. So we deal a lot in steel and manufacturing and fabrication and things of that nature. One of the best things you can do is go see it happen. And I would encourage, if you've never seen a factory floor, if you've never seen what manufacturing looks like, Mercedes and Vans gives tours, right? Most of these companies, the owners are so glad someone wants to see what they do every day. They'll give you a hard hat. They'll give you safety goggles, like show up, wear your steel toes, or they'll make you wear some of theirs. But show up and go look and see what this world's like. That's a world where sparks are flying all the time. It's a world where people work really hard. And technology, when we say technology, to my point earlier, we primarily think about software, right? And so taking, for the moment, we'll come back to it, but taking robotics and things like that off the table, how have you seen like the recent trends, call it last 10 years, maybe last 5, how have you seen technology really impacting those floors and those people who work in that world? Because they are not native, I sit at a screen 8 hours a day people, right? In fact, I will tell you the one thing every person in the metals industry has said to me that is in common is, I don't want to use your damn computer. Mm-hmm. That has been the common moment. So what are you seeing when those changes?
Well, yeah, I'll ask a leading question. Maybe of all of you that have children in here, how many of your children are telling you that when they get older, they want to go into manufacturing? Okay, one.
My man.
So we still got some lightness here. But in the real world, I mean, we're insulated here. We're all technologists by trade. But out in the world, there is, as you said, sparks flying. I mean, this is in high demand. Unfortunately, there's a huge labor shortage, right? Not just in manufacturing, but just in general. We're all looking for good people to join our organizations. Manufacturers are dealing with a different type of problem. They have processes and manufacturing capabilities that require humans to be there. They can't say, Claude, solve this problem for me. They have to have actual people operating HMIs. They have to have people coding PLCs. They have to have people that are actually moving material down the line. And so when you think about that, number one is there's a huge labor shortage in manufacturing. Number two is everybody is trying to increase production. They're trying to do it more efficiently, and they're trying to navigate this labor shortage. So what does that do? That kind of creates this nexus of forces. It creates this concentrated effort on being more intelligent. And so they do that through the application of technology and data. And so I think one of the biggest things that I think our customers are trying to navigate right now is that how do they go from an industrial application of old to what we've referred to as Industry 4.0 or Industry 5.0. And Industry 4.0 is basically the application of all the data that is available in a manufacturing scene and using it to better run your facility. And then, of course, going forward in 5.0, as you start to think about the generative aspects of that, where you're actually generating synthetic data to support your predictive and preventative maintenance. And so it's helping organizations mature in that aspect. And that's where I think Motion is well suited for it. Number one, we know the industries that we're serving. We have strong relationships in the field, not just out of Birmingham, but in our field and the account representatives that support them. And so I think when they come in and they're applying an IoT solution, if they're applying a robotic solution, if they're applying some type of intelligence to their manufacturing, it lands differently than, okay, I'm a 1-year-old company and I don't know who you are, and I really have just done a research and I've got this new whiz-bang thing. We respect the sensitivity around production. And so unfortunately, I will share with you all, there was only one hand that went up in manufacturing for being from a manufacturer or a production setting. And in manufacturing and production, today wins. And I'm going to say that, right? I mean, it is, all of us are in technology and there's kind of this nebulous, well, I can fix that tomorrow. I'm waiting on so-and-so to do this or that. I have this dependency on but I've got this risk that I'm trying to mitigate over here. In manufacturing, today wins. There is a number and you have to meet it today. And so the sensitivity for our reps, our technology, our solutions that we provide is to help our customers satisfy today. So
it's interesting because, we in the manufacturing and fabrication space, and it's funny because we were talking before and we would use those words potentially differently, and we got to have lunch and figure out which one we should use. But I was at a company recently that was founded when Abraham Lincoln was in office. That's a real thing. Abraham Lincoln was in office when this company was founded. And so when we say things, it's changing and they're slow to move, maybe, right? But they were literally around when metal became the thing, right? So it's wild when you think about it that way, because in our world, in knowledge workers' world, when we say something like AI, let's use that as an example, we're like, oh my God, it's so disruptive and it's so different and the whole world's going to change. And then the metals industry, when I deal with the metals industry, they're like, maybe, right? Again, Lincoln was in office when we were founded, so I don't know what you're talking about, youngin', right? Like that's the thing. How do you see AI playing in these worlds? Like that's a real thing that we talk about. I've mentioned Claude, you've mentioned Claude. Claude cannot cut metal, just a heads up. It cannot deliver it, cannot shape it, right? A human has to have it. So how is AI impacting that world, and how is Motion helping customers navigate that?
Yeah, I would say to start with, I'm glad we made it 20 minutes into the conversation before this started dominating. But we're all inundated with all the information around generative AI or agentic AI. And so I would say they're slower to adopt, right? They're not digital natives. They have points of incubation, I would say, where they're probably trying to do some unique things. But when you think about their center cut manufacturing, largely it's very traditional. And your point about, certain types of, we go in and we'll find machinery that was in a plant that has been there for 60 plus years. You have gearboxes that are 50 years old. And so when somebody's saying, I need help in supporting this gearbox, there's a play for that, right? So I would say that we would typically start with what I would say is either foundational or traditional AI. Our customers are looking to us and saying, hey, we continue to have a failure at this point. So great. We start understanding what that failure data looks like. We start applying some traditional machine learning algorithms to that. We look at their usage in particular. So I'm using this bearing consistently in this application. Okay, great. We identify that as an outlier. We need to understand and see what that application looks like, because we're probably not using the right bearing, because the mean time between failure is far in excess of what you're getting out of that particular product. And so that's typically where we see it. When we start to see some of the machine vision or some of the machine learning, that's when things get really, really exciting. And I would say probably for all of us, that's when as technologists we go, okay, that's really cool. I'm good on the machine learning, good on the regression analysis, all that's solid. And so what we try to do is apply where if you think about applications of technology in a let's say a dangerous environment. And so we used the analogy yesterday of an automated lubrication system. Okay, so if we've got a bearing or a gear that needs lubrication at a certain point in a manufacturing facility, great. We don't want them to have to go up there and get on a 60-foot scissor lift and go up there and apply the lubrication. We want to help them install an appliance that can read dynamically and understand when lubrication needs to be applied. We have sensors that understand that. And we have sensors that understand, okay, they're getting low on lubrication. We need to go out there and replenish that. And so what we start to see is just kind of a working, let's just say, smarter. The things that we probably take for granted in our own consumer lives are starting to now make their way into the industrial world, where they don't want to have to think about these things. They don't want to have to think about replenishment. They don't want to have to think, why is this thing failing at this rate? They want us to come and say, hey, we noticed that this belt and pulley system is not working the way that you should, because you keep buying the same product over and over again. We're here to help you with that. And then when you get into what I would say is, the cutting edge stuff, when you think about the generative or agentic world, we're having customers call us now that are bleeding edge hyper accelerators or hyperscalers, and they're saying, we want our agents to speak to your agents. We want them to come out of our ERP system and talk to your agent, and we want them to be able to identify product, quote product, be able to place an order, and then you be able to do that all autonomously. Of course, we have humans in the loop, but I mean, those are the types of conversations that we're having right now with our biggest customers, and certainly in the technology space. So, and we didn't cover this, but we have a wide range of customers. So when you think about the spectrum of technology maturity, certain customers that we're selling to, like, large leaders in software and hardware and data center space, versus maybe if you went to cement and aggregates, you're going to have a different conversation with a hyperscaler than you are with a 100-year-old cement and aggregate company.
Something you mentioned there that I wouldn't mind digging into a little bit more. Who here has ever sued an AI company for a mistake that GPT or Claude made? I could ask that in every room in America right now, and that would be the same number of hands, because you can't sue AI. AI makes mistakes. We know it, right? In our world, it's like, that email didn't go quite the way I wanted. I'll fix it. In this world, you can't do that, right? You cut that metal. I saw Anna and I were at a shop a few weeks back, and there was a tube in this shop. And this tube was the biggest tube I've ever seen in my entire life. The tube itself had to be created in Italy. Just the tube was $100,000 of material. Mm-hmm. They were going to drill holes in it. If they drill a hole in the wrong place by a millimeter, they just spent $100,000 in materials and whatever amount of time you have to spend to get this back. So you said something yesterday about humans being in the loop, and I would like to dial in a little bit on that, because it is very different in this world when we're talking about people who have tangible goods, durable goods, metal. You can't uncut it, right? These things matter, and so they can't depend on AI the same way we might when we're trying to make, when I'm trying to put some stats together and come in and tell y'all there's 55,000 companies in Jefferson County. Who knew, right? That's a lot of companies. 56,000. You wouldn't have cared if I said it wrong, right? You wouldn't have cared if I said 54. That's a mistake that doesn't matter. These mistakes matter. And so when you say human in the loop, you mean an actual human making sure that whatever we're doing is working. So what does that look like for y'all working with your customers?
Yeah, so I would say I'll give you two examples. One is when we think about when we install sensors out into the field and we're monitoring, let's just say, the temperature, the vibration of a particular piece that's out in the field. There's tons of parameters of data that are coming back all day long. And so what I don't mean is that we have somebody sitting there looking through every piece of data that comes that way. What I do mean is that we apply the right amount of AI, the right amount of machine learning to identify what are the anomalies. And then we go in and we check and say, okay, does that data signature match up with a failure, an imminent failure, or a predictive signal for a failure? And then, because nobody wants to have an email come to them that says, oh yeah, bearing up here on this hot roller is about to go out. Well, that's not the real world. That maintenance person, that leader, is not sitting at a computer monitoring email all day long. They need a phone call. They need a human saying, hey, this is what's going on over there. And so through our internal resources and through various partnerships that we have, we take advantage of those things. And what we don't want to do is become spam, right? The noise that we send them just is another email that somebody's trying to figure out. It's not timely. It doesn't come with relevant context. They don't know the process. But when you add that human element to it, now you have a sensitive situation. They're able to kind of walk them through it. Hey, here's what we're seeing. Did something change? Did you change a pulley? Why is this doing what it is? And so it creates more of a dialogue for that. So that's what I mean by human in the loop, customer facing. If we're thinking about internally and some of the applications of technology that we're doing presently, we have basically an accelerator and assistant. So our branches are still very much human centered. We have customer service representatives based in the United States. This is not a business process outsourcing thing that Motion has ever endeavored to do. We have people in market that know, and I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier about, people going to church and sitting across restaurant tables with people out there that are in the manufacturing sense and that we serve them. And so it's very much relationship driven. And so if we're inundated internally with a lot of what I'm going to say is administrative work or data entry work or clerical style work, all well intended, all totally to satisfy the customer, but it doesn't add value to the customer. It doesn't add value in how we're supporting our customer, then that's a waste of time. And so I think we can all agree with that. And so some of the generative and agentic work that we're doing is to take that out of their hands and bring it back to them at the point that we feel like it's ready for a human decision. So think about creating an order, talking through a customer, like taking their preferences out of their profile information, matching their products that they're trying to get a quotation on. All of those things, again, historically, a human is doing those things. And the reason that I'll share with it, you may say like, well, wow, Kevin, like Motion has a catalog. Like, why would you have to have a human go in there and interpret that? And I'll give you an example of this, is that about 50% of the products that we sell to our customers are not coded or traditional items. 50%. So we're almost a $9 billion company. And why does that happen? A lot of that happens because somebody says, hey, look, you know what? I want that sprocket, but I want the keyway cut differently. I want the sprocket, but I want my drill set done differently. And so when you start having to do and satisfy those types of unique customer requests, because a huge part of Motion's value proposition is to be able to say yes to our customer. And so when we start having to make those interpretations of, hey, I need 50 of those belts I bought last month. Great. The customer is trying to move on to solve a real manufacturing problem. They're not trying to go and pull the PO from last month and say, oh, it was on PO 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was line item 5. I need 50 more of those. No, they just know that they ordered 50 of them last month and they need to replenish those things. And so as much as we can, we want to have the systems and the agents go and ascertain and determine that information, bring it forward to a CSR and let them look at it and go, yes, that looks right. Meanwhile, so we kind of, I won't get too much inside baseball, but we have what the agent tells them and we compare and contrast that with what the actual customer request looks like. So whether that's through EDI or XML or email, so they can compare and contrast those things side by side.
Yeah, we had a pretty early use case in our world where someone said, "Hey, I see that you're out of this steel. What can I use as a replacement to build this bridge?" And what we don't want is Claude telling us what metal to use to build a bridge. And so pretty early on, that was an actual test case we did. Like, what can this AI go do, right? Is it Google 3.0 or is it intelligent? And at the end of the day, human beings, an engineer in our case, would say that doesn't make any sense. And if you don't have the moment of it doesn't make any sense, you're going to make mistakes. And so what you described earlier about the bearing, right, is really interesting to me because you were describing what I would consider the highest order of engineering, right? We've got hardware, we've got software, we've got an entire solution in place. We're using logic to solve a problem in space for a human being. And that is an intelligent use of AI. I want to tell the AI to solve a problem for a human being. Someone has to come up with that. And one of the things I've been fascinated by when I see factories, I'm a process guy, and I'm actually an anti-process guy. So when you want to build the same thing a million times, you can set up a process to do it. When you want to build a million different things, you can't set up a process to do it. And even in a factory, let's say you did go to Vance and you saw Mercedes, that's the one I'm most familiar with. It's an amazing factory. Highly recommend the tour. They only tool their factory for that model, right? They have two sides of the factory, and they will have to tear the entire factory apart and reconfigure it. Guess who does that? Humans. They probably use some form of AI to be like, what are some good suggestions here? But the humans, in the end of the day, have to make a decision. And so the reason I'm belaboring this point is everybody is asking right now. I'm getting this question a lot. You may be too. What jobs are safe from AI? I'm getting that question a lot. And I don't know, show of hands, who has heard that question asked? Exactly. We're getting that question a lot. Now, going back to what I started with, Birmingham already has a base to build from. And so automation becomes a conversation, right? And I don't want to miss that. So I don't want to go too far on AI. I could do it all day, and we know. But automation. And when I say automation, I'm talking about robotics. So I'll give you an example. I'll stay with Mercedes, right? But I could be talking about Toyota or Honda or Hyundai or any of the plants I've been to. There's always an arm that moves the car doors. Do you know how heavy a car door is? Right? But there's an arm and it moves it at about this speed. Right? And that's car door after car door after car door. That's automation. That's a thing a human could not do at that speed. So y'all are mixed up in that too, right? That's a thing y'all do?
We are. So our primary business is in what we would call maintenance, repair, and operation, meaning that you're running a gearbox, it fails, we want to support you in that. But a large piece of our business is in our automation intelligence group, and they're doing that type of work. So it could be machine vision, it could be conveyance systems, it could be 7-axis robotic armatures, it could be frameless motors. It's a lot of different things that we do in highly technical application. And so we talked a little bit about the labor shortage earlier. You mentioned on the level of customization. We'll give this with you because I think this will resonate to you more than maybe some of the examples that we've given. If you think about your car, right? Your car has a known product list on it, correct? Like you could go into Napa, O'Reilly's, whomever, and you could say, I have a 2006 Chevy Silverado, and I need this replaced. And they're going to be able to pull out a catalog and tell you exactly what you're dealing with. What you just mentioned is very unique. So even within the Vance plant, all of that is built specifically for that plant. And so there is no parts catalog. There's a parts catalog inside that facility, right? The people that engineered it and that operate it every day, they know those things. But there's no repeat of that. It's extremely rare for somebody to have a clone of those things. And so the application of technology is to support that. Like, how do you very quickly satisfy internal demand at a factory to help them automate or move something quicker without having to have, tear down everything and start over? So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it that I would say is, if you start looking at, just the vision aspect of it, we hit on the labor shortage piece, and I'll give you a specific example of like if you have you're looking for a pattern or a visual inspection of something, which is very common in manufacturing. You go out and you visually inspect something. You make sure that this hopper is not overflowing. You go and check this belt to see if it has fraying or something along those lines. When we go in and say, okay, well, you don't need people to go out there and do those things. Like, we have systems that can support you and help you solve those problems. And that way you're taking your specialized knowledge, skills, and abilities within the manufacturing space, and you're applying those to real problems, not what I would say is routine base, old school maintenance. I hate to use that term, but there are a lot of people that there's this dilemma of, do you spend the money to support that or do you not? And we see that a lot right now.
The Vance plant, let's stick there for a minute since we're both familiar with it seems. So has anyone ever been to the Mercedes plant? Yeah, great. So they run 3 shifts and they run 24/7. What that means is every Mercedes is rolling the whole time. And at the end of the day, people always talk about manufacturing and they say, oh, the worst thing that can happen is the line stops. It's actually not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen is that a station messes up a set of 100 vehicles. And these are $200,000 cars. I've seen that occur. And so when you're talking about maintenance, what I will tell you is the mechanics at the Vance plant, so many of y'all raised your hands, so a good portion of us have raised our hands on that. You've seen how big it is. There are warehouses at that plant where you can see the curvature of the earth. That's indoors. That's a big plant. Now, the mechanics that cover that, there's like 15 of them. And every shift, 3 shifts, gets a 30-minute lunch break. That's the only time the mechanics have to do their work. So that entire plant has to be covered somehow. Every machine in that plant, every robotic arm, every conveyance, everything else in that plant has to be covered in 3 30-minute segments in a day. It's an hour and a half a day that they're willing to let the mechanics go do the work. So when you talk about automation and you talk about AI, right, and you talk about what I would call highest order of engineering, which is I'm using multiple forms of engineering to solve a singular problem. And you start talking about like these factories and how they have to go solve these things. Early warning systems are a huge win. Knowing where to look. Do not underestimate the value of knowing where to look. That's a huge win. But these are the kind of things that us in the technology industry or us in knowledge work, we overlook those things because we consider them details and minutia.
Well, we take them for granted because we've had access to them for so long. I mean, who would sit here? I mean, let's just go like in infrastructure. Who worries about their hard drive running out of space anymore? No, because you get alerted way in advance. Right? I mean, we've had access to that type of technology for I don't know how long. In the industrial setting or the operational setting, it's like, no, okay, well, that's nice to know that tire is low. It is nice to know that the torque on that particular gearbox is getting out of range. I mean, all those things that we as consumers are just like, yeah, easy breezy. In the industrial setting, to find that right application is just, it is somewhat new. And I say new, relatively new, 10 years new, roughly.
Yeah, nation. Yeah, absolutely. We were at a shop recently and they have a paint booth. And that's rare in the fabrication shops that we go to. Usually they outsource painting. So painting is a big deal that we do take for granted. You see every crane in America is painted some color, right? You know how hard it is to paint something that big, right? Just consider that for a moment. That's a big deal. So you know how they do it? They make something to hold the crane arm. They manufacture a one-off piece. That is amazing. Oh, I've got a 180-foot thing I need to paint. Imagine that problem. And this is one of the points I want to get to today. This is something that these folks in this world are solving every single day. So there's this huge opportunity for us in the technology industry to realize that's what's going on and to show up and say, hey, look, we can help solve that problem too. Yeah. And that's what you guys have been doing. And so I'd be super curious to ask you, and you may have a comment, you look to your mic, but what are the gaps that you're seeing where, companies can pop in and be like, hey, this is how we can help these folks?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say the biggest gap that we see right now is customer availability, right? So they have problems today that they are solving. And so anything that distracts them from production or the problems that they're trying to solve doesn't rate on their radar. But they also know and recognize that they have to start working differently. And so that gap between where they are and the reactive nature of today versus taking that step forward to think about a little bit more preventive, predictive, proactive style engagement, I think those are the manufacturers that you're probably going to start stepping away from the more traditional ones. And we typically will start with, okay, yes, you have 0 sensors in your environment. Let us just demonstrate to you the type of intelligence that can bring to your manufacturing. And once they get a little taste of it, I'll be honest with you, then it's like, okay, no, I can't live without this because I got notified 8 hours in advance of this particular motor failing, and that would have shut down my entire line. So I was able to use that 30-minute shift change or lunch break to go in there and replace something very quickly. And so I think as you start to see that, you start building momentum, and of course, you have to have trust, right? What you install has got to be rock solid. It has to be industrial grade. That's a given. I think once you establish that trust that it is not some type of vaporware or some gimmick, that they're actually going to get real value from the application of technology in their operational setting, it absolutely changes things. And I would harken back to a previous life, and there's some Drummond people in here, but their application of technology and their operational setting, when they went from a fleet management system that wasn't optimized to applying fleet management, like to where all their routing and optimization was done, it changed their world, and in such a degree that I think the customers, again, where you open their eyes to what they're capable of doing and the intelligence that they can bring to their table, it's hard to go back. It's like their eyes are open now, and you can't unsee that. And the ability to operate at that level of precision is superior to anything that they've experienced before.
Y'all caught that, right? He used the term industrial grade. He meant it, right? I get to say it like it means something. No, he means it because it's industrial grade. That stuff has to run all the time. That matters, and that's a big trust building moment. Who in this room has been through a change management process, participated in change management at their companies? Yeah, a few people. Who's led one? Keep your hands up. I'm actually counting. So we got a couple of people who've led 3. Change management. Let's talk about that for a moment, because that's kind of what you were just hitting. This is not on script. I'm sorry. So change management is probably an issue our companies share. And when I say change management, what I mean is, if you're a company, especially if you're a manufacturer, you're someone who produces a widget, let's say, and you produce 1 million of them, that is your stream of income. So every process in your company is built to protect that stream of income. Everybody with me so far? What that means is anything that potentially threatens that stream of income is a foreign agent, it's a virus, it is to be fought. It does not matter if it's good or bad, it is to be rejected. That's a protection of an income stream. That's what companies are, right? A set of processes that protect an income stream. They are very rarely, outside of startups, capitalization engines, right? And so when I talk about change management, talk about change management. Do you walk in and say, hey, this is an efficiency play? This is you can do more play? This is a workforce retention play? What are the plays that you see in these companies where it's like that was the trigger for change management, where people were like, oh, now I'm in. Oh, okay, now I get it. That's why I want to make that change.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we walk in and prescribe, hey, this is the solution for you for reason X, Y, or Z. As I mentioned earlier, we're very customer centric, so we would want to walk in and I would want to hear from the customer, like, what is keeping you up at night? We used to have that conversation all the time, like, what is interrupting you seeing your kids play baseball on the weekend? Because that's a real thing. What is interrupting you when you're having dinner with your family and all of a sudden you have to get up and leave and go back to the plant? And so if we take the time to understand those things and we're empathetic with our customers to know what those things are, then it allows us to shape what our pitch or our opportunity would be. If you think about that and then you say, okay, now we're thinking about, yes, you don't have enough people to staff. Let's just say we land on that one. Then yes, we're going to pull that thread and help them understand that, yes, you have a labor shortage right now. You can't do a route-based maintenance plan. So we can have technology that can come in there and support you and do that. If we just have failure after failure after failure, and we don't know why we're having a failure, then it becomes, okay, well, let us add the intelligence to this to be able to give you the X-ray vision to understand what's actually happening on your plant floor. So it could be a variety of things. And what I would say is that if you start thinking about smart manufacturing or Industry 4.0, the application of that technology is, I've said it and I'll say it again. It is a huge opportunity for manufacturers to take a step forward and work more intelligently, so that they can increase productivity, so that they can manage and deal with a labor shortage, so that they can deal with the volatility that we're all dealing with in geopolitical climates and raw material shortages that get disrupted. Those are real things, and if you have the intelligence to be able to back those things up, then you're going to be well positioned to navigate that storm.
Good answer. So I'm now curious, your vision for the future of motion, of Industry 6.0, right? Where are we going? What is it going to look like? And I would love your take on, as two local boys, right? What's it going to look like for this central 6 counties, central 7 counties in the state of Alabama, this metropolitan area? What's it going to look like?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball for sure. So, but what I do think about is Birmingham is uniquely positioned. I think you opened us up very well with that. Our name of being the Magic City is very real. And for those of you who aren't Birmingham natives or don't know that story, basically there were a lot of steel tycoons that came down and said, okay, wow, we've got all the raw materials here to really do a lot of steel manufacturing, a lot of ore, got a good labor force, underdeveloped. And they said we should do this. And then they came back, and a lot of work had been done, and they deemed it the Magic City, and that it happened just like that. And so, when you think about our industrial heritage, and then you think about the knowledge base that's here in Birmingham, and the agility that we have, I think in the new incubation utilities that we've got, and then you think about the corporate infrastructure that's here, and the industrial base, the Vulcans of the world, the Motions of the world, the Drummonds of the world. These are great companies, and they have a tremendous legacy of growing. And I think the application of technology within those spaces is really, really powerful. If I look at crystal ball, I would say, I certainly can't predict for Birmingham. We're excited about, what we're doing in Birmingham. Motion, for those of y'all who don't know, is going through a separation from our parent company, Genuine Parts, which is based out of Atlanta. And so we're excited about, what the growth prospects look like for us. We have visions to double our business in the next 5 years. That means a lot for Birmingham. It means a lot for the talent base that we have to put together. If I think about technology, man, it's hard for me to tell you what's going to happen in 6 months, much less 5 years. I would tell you that I do believe the work that we're seeing, for those of y'all who aren't working in the agentic world, that is very real. And the opportunities for every one of us to work differently is very real. You asked, what is AI proof? And this is not mine. This is Jensen Wang's. But it's not whether AI is going to take your job. It's whether somebody who wields AI better than you is going to take your job. And so my challenge to you all and to your peers and to your family members is to embrace this technology as much as you can, and bring as much value out of it as you can, because that is what is going to propel us. If you look at the decision-making speed that can occur right now with the use of agentic or generative technology, it's unparalleled. What used to take weeks to research is now done with the right prompt in about 45 seconds. Yes, a human has to discern that. They have to decipher that. They have to apply the learnings that came out of that. But the speed to knowledge, the speed to information, the speed to decision making is just going to get faster and faster. And so the way that I look at it is not necessarily that I have to operate at the decision making speed of Susan Hill. I have to operate at the decision-making speed of Susan Hill's machine, at ITAC's machine, at Drummond's machine, at anybody else, at Region's machine. And so it is not, can Kevin keep up? It's, can Kevin's agents keep up? Can I engage at the speed of commerce? And so I think we all have a unique challenge in front of us. I would say that the opportunity is very, very real for all of our respective organizations. And you talk about the playing field being leveled. It's almost as if we're back to the old aspects of, the dot-com era that many of us in the room remember, but, a lot of us probably didn't grow up where, all of a sudden this was new. This was this huge transition. Many of the people in the room have grown up where, e-commerce and .com that's just taken for granted. So the digital revolution part 2 is here, and I would expect another one to occur shortly thereafter. And so I would just challenge you to be able to move at the speed of machines and stay in an athletic position of being a lifelong learner. None of us in this space get to walk away from learning ever. And that is exciting and also a little bit terrifying sometimes. So that's what I see in the future.
Yeah, I like it. I like the athletic position thing. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to steal that. Yeah. Do we have questions? Do we have a microphone for questions? Do we want me to walk around? Jared, you going to walk around? You're way cooler than I am. Yeah. So questions, Q&A. We got some time for that. We'll take as much time. I think we have plenty of time. So if anyone has questions, comments, wants to throw something at me, I think Ben said he was going to throw cookies at me. So yeah.
So if you're a graduate coming out of Alabama, Auburn, whatever, high school, you don't want to go to college, I mean, where's the sweet spot for the job market and to get into this, whether it be with technology or in the field?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure I've got an exact answer for you. What I would tell you is that we traditionally, and you all tell me if this resonates with you as technology leaders, traditionally we would look at tenure. We would look at what technology stacks have they worked with, how long have they been with companies, and those things definitely still mean something, right? What experience level do you have? What results have you achieved through your application of technology? I would say if you're thinking about in the AI space, man, that world has just been totally disrupted and gets disrupted every 6 months. And so I don't have a good answer for you other than if I were a high school graduate right now and wanted to stay into technology, all I would be doing is working on agentic technology. That is all I would not be distracted by anything else right now. And the more that you can demonstrate your proficiency in that, not like, hey, go look at my GitHub repository, but actually bring demonstrable functionality to an organization, show that you can do that and show that you can modify it, manipulate those things, and how you manage your model and how you manage drift. That's what I would be focused on.
Yeah, I'll take a shot. Is it cool if I answer too?
Of course.
All right, cool. So I'll take a shot at that too. I think it's a good question. And it's really interesting. I'm going to do a yes and, because I think it's additive. At the end of the day, what I want in the world that I live in is creative problem solving. And so if I talk about engineering is just creative, logical problem solving. Now, if I say mechanical engineer, you're going to do creative, logical problem solving with machines. If I say software, you're going to do it with software. You just keep going, right? So what the world is short on right now is creative, logical problem solving. And if I can have someone come in and prove to me, oh, I'm creative and I'm a logical problem solver, cool. Can you do that with AI? Yeah. Now you're probably 10 times better because you can get your answers quicker. You can ask questions. You know what questions to ask. And so it's interesting how we have a lot of people selling us right now on AI who say AI is going to replace everyone. All knowledge workers should be afraid, right? That's a refrain we all hear. Every one of those people is selling AI, right? So again, been around since 94 in this world. It's not the first time people have said something like that, but using it as a tool, that's where this stuff tends to plane out is, oh, wow, some subset of people figured out how to use this thing as a tool to make them better at the thing they were already pretty good at. And in my case, in engineering, it's creative, logical problem solving.
Agreed. Yeah. And forgive me, I was thinking more around the AI space. And I think you had great additions there. Who's naturally curious, right? I can't make somebody naturally curious. I can't make somebody humble. I can't make them hungry. I can't make them smart, but those are the intangibles that you're going to see that come forward, and those are always going to be in demand.
And don't be afraid to hit up one of these manufacturing companies or blue collar companies. Don't think that the only places you can work are the traditional places where we think we see technology. It exists in these companies. They need it more. Anybody who raised their hand on change management would be a rock star at one of those companies right now because they are all scrambling for how do we manage change and not disrupt our production line. That is a big problem to solve.
I think I have a natural follow-up based on that. I think one of the things you face a lot of the times in terms of creative problem solving is reliant on data availability and data integrity, right? And so in this process mapping, when you're working in a new manufacturing environment where you've got, say, thousands of moving parts and dozens, if not hundreds of people using them, how do you balance that implementation conversation around generating that data, whether it's through EDI or through sensors, whatever that case looks like, to say, hey, this is good enough to gather what we need to solve order one problem, or go down the ROI path to where it's not working because you over-engineer it?
Great question. We typically will saturate a new installation for that very reason, is that you have to cast wide enough net to get the density of data that you need to actually have something that's significant. And so in our world, typically that means, 3-digit sensors being installed out there. And typically somebody is saying, okay, once I've burned in now, we're typically about 10 to 14 days, we're going to start to identify some significant data signatures. We've had things happen the night that we install them. And all of a sudden the customer's like, okay, yeah, sign me up for some of that. If you think about traditional back office, it varies. I mean, any data scientist out here or statistician will tell you, like, you're going to have to reach a level of statistical significance in your data model. And what that is depends on the type of data that you're working with. And you're right. I mean, it depends. And I wish I had a better textbook answer for you, but I would just say if you apply those concepts like that density and statistical significance, you're going to be fine.
You guys have one more.
Okay, so I'm still trying to gather my thought on the question. It sounds like, and what I heard his question was somebody who didn't want to go to college. My first thought was trying to get somebody into the blue collar, the manufacturing type roles. So if we think of those people don't typically have the traditional training, who's filling that gap for that pipeline of people coming in to be prepared to handle the AI and all the new technology, as opposed to just repeating the cycle of we've always done it this way?
Yeah. So let me make sure I understand your question. I want to come back and make sure I got your question right. You're saying who's filling the talent gap pipeline for manufacturing?
For manufacturing, when you guys talk about manufacturing, blue collar jobs, I think Mike Rupp.
Yeah.
And I've seen things where he's really trying to build that.
Nailed it.
He knows that there's a gap there, that we need the pipeline. He's offering scholarships.
Yep.
And all kinds of training.
Yeah, I think
Who can come in and fill that gap?
Well, I think you're seeing it right now, and don't quote me on where this is applied, but I definitely know within many of the high schools in the 6-county metro area that they are offered an opportunity. It's like a work-study program. And so if somebody doesn't want to go to university or secondary ed, whatever, they can go and say, okay, I want to opt into this. And so it could be focused on trade, welding, plumbing, HVAC, manufacturing, construction. And so we have people in our neighborhood whose children are participating in these types of programs. And it's shocking. Like, they go out there, and as a junior in high school, they are told, here's your PPE. They get a full-on safety orientation. Your phone is in a locker. You catch your phone use, you're out of the program. Like, I mean, it is very much like exactly what we would typically see in a manufacturing setting. What did you talk about yesterday? The no-kill zone, or
the no mutilation zone?
Mutilation
That
zone.
sign is
right.
That sign means you're the one getting mutilated, by the way. If you ever see it in a factory, do not step near that sign.
So like this, they are inoculated basically in all things manufacturing. And postgraduate, like, they have an opportunity to go in and participate. And these kids are in really, really high demand. I mean, they are in very high demand. And typically what we're seeing is that they're going into a welding position, construction foreman positions. I mean, they're coming out and they're immediately being able to go into what you would say historically is a blue collar job. I mean, it's just a job. It is it is creation of something, and they're putting their hands on something and actually making those things come to life. So I will commit to get you the name of the organization, but that is very real and alive and well in Alabama.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
Is that something where the schools and things, have you found that they're just using the manufacturing companies to ask them as stakeholders what they need, and are they recognizing the need for the IT side? I guess what I'm looking at is there a place for us from the technology side to help fill some of that gap and provide some input to those training areas.
I'm sure there's an opportunity. I couldn't speak for them about the level of influence.
what's your
So,
name?
Don.
Amy, meet Ben. Ben, meet Amy. Ask him. There are places. And what is interesting is these are not, we traditionally have thought about go to university, get a degree. Why? To make a bunch of money, right? That's presumptively why you would do that. These jobs pay really good money. They are starting out $50, $60, $70 an hour sometimes. So these jobs are very valid. We, however, as just adults who are in industry, we don't generally talk about these jobs as if they are aspirational, right? We still have this set of comments that we make about university is how you go, right? You want a white collar job. And there's nothing invalid about that path, but we can't invalidate the path to tangible good delivery along the way. And so there are, Ben, I'm thinking about the Birmingham Tech Council there are places where people gather. And the thing about Birmingham, which is the most Birmingham thing ever, is there's 15 different versions of it. And all of them go and talk about it. And we do a very poor job of getting together and saying, let's go make that real. So if that's something you're passionate about, I would love to talk to you. I know Ben would love to talk to you. Let's talk because it matters. And if you're talking about IT jobs in the manufacturing space, which is a thing you said, which I think is super interesting, they exist and they exist more and more and more. Because if you're a customer of Motion Industries or you're a customer of Stella Source and you've never used technology, how do you think it feels sitting across the table from someone who's been working in AI for the past 2 years? And it's just a huge gap. And so the translators and the people who are innovating in that space and doing change management in that space are becoming more and more valuable to those companies. And I don't know if you do, but I see a lot more of those companies going out and saying, we're actually going to go hire somebody because we need somebody to understand what it looks like on our factory floor. That's how valuable it is to us. I want someone on staff. And so I think there's all these opportunities, but I think we're pretty early in it. And this is why I think Birmingham has an advantage. We have a bunch of us who have grown up in this world and we know a lot of stuff. We can pass it on and we should be. I think Jared's saying that's all the questions. Y'all good.
That's all we got for questions. That's all we got.
I respect the second attempt. I really do.
There we go. That's all we have for questions. Let's give it up for our speakers. I will say, Amy, I'll throw in my 2 cents. I think a problem when it comes to, trying to get students and graduates into these manufacturing jobs is a lot of the perception from like social media. Lawson State has a program where you can do it for 2 years and you're making upwards to 6 figures, but they're not getting any students in because it's not, I'm not playing with AI, I'm not building the coolest stuff, but, we're trying to fix that perception with the Tech Council and also with other groups like the BBA and the National Workforce Development. So, Kevin, Donnie, thank you for being here. Amazing work as always. Let's give it up one more time. Once again. Oh, no, you can stay there for a minute. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to take a picture in a minute, so you might as well stay here, right? Once again, thank you to Mary Wallace and Regents for being here, Digital Motion, Birmingham Now. I also want to thank, where's Nick? Nick, where are you? For taking the pictures. And also thank you to Joseph and Shelley for helping putting this together. They had reached out to me after a Birmingham Tech Council mixer, and they're like, we want to get more involved. And they sponsored Sloss Tech. They sponsored a BTC Lunch and Learn. So once again, thank you guys for being a part of this. More to come. Also, thank you to KMD, Kelby, and Victor for taking photos. They are amazing. All right, so that wraps up Tech Tuesday. I think I have like 2 more sandwiches left, if anybody wants one. Our next Tech Tuesday will be August 25th. We're doing our 4th annual collaboration with Sidewalk on innovation film with Alabama Creates. It's going to be super cool. A lot of fun, and it will be in Sidewalk Theater or Sidewalk Film Festival. So feel free to hang around a bit, talk, network. Thank you.